Welcome everybody to the F4 Hunger Awareness Show.
It's my goal to feed 1 billion people before I die.
We want to bring awareness around the issue of hunger and food insecurity.
7 to 8 million people served so far. With the sole goal of eradicating world hunger by connecting sources of food to recipients in need. Fiorenza's Food for Friends.
Hi, Derek Fiorenza here for the F4 Hunger Awareness Show, and I'm very excited today. We continue our Chartwell Cares series. This is part of the Chartwell Cares Holiday Food Drive Initiative, and we have a really special guest, a partner at Chartwell Law, Mr. Angel Gomez. Angel, welcome to the F4 Hunger Awareness Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here. I've seen all the great interviews you've done with some of my colleagues at Chartwell, so I hope I can live up to the greatness.
Well, I appreciate you being here and giving us some of your time. We're going to start out and we're going to ask you a little bit about how you became an attorney, what that process was like growing up as a kid. Did you always know that you wanted to practice law? When did you kind of have that tipping point?
Yeah, so I realized later on in life that I wanted to be an attorney. I actually went through a series of different professions that I wanted to get into. Initially, I was very good at math, and I thought I was going to get into engineering. And then I took calculus. We call it AP calculus in high school, and then I realized very, very quickly that math wasn't my thing. And then, I wanted to go into medical school. I got into a Cornell University program in high school, and we did surgery, like well, not surgeries, but we kind of did the suturing, and we did a lot of different things. And I was like, you know what, this is not for me. Long story short, my stepfather, who was a very, very important part of my life, suffered a motor vehicle accident while at work. And so I helped him with his workers' compensation process. Again, young kid from New York City, not really privy to anything legal. So I would go with him to the Harlem location of the Workers' Compensation Board and attend his hearings with him. And I realized very quickly that he didn't have a voice despite having counsel. He wasn't really considered by the process, and I had an opportunity to look very closely at a person who suffered a real injury and who was kind of going through it. So, um, seeing my stepdad in that form really encouraged me to speak for the ones that didn't have a voice. And then that going into college and realizing I like asking questions, I like speaking, all came together, and I was like, you know what, going to law school. So that's
Mhm.
my story in a nutshell, and that's the reason why I pursued a legal career.
So it started out just very much, it's personal with your stepfather's accident, and that
It's very
kind of
personal. Mhm.
thrusted you right into this profession.
That's correct. That's correct.
What was it like going through applying to law school? I know the LSATs are not easy. What was that whole process like? And was it later in life? Had you already, I guess you already graduated at this point, undergrad?
So, um, so look, the process wasn't easy. I have to admit, no one in my family graduated. Well, no one in my immediate family graduated college. No one knew what it was to pursue an advanced degree. And this is not, to go into a sad story, but frankly, I didn't have the support. I put myself through college. I worked hard. I had multiple jobs while at college, and I was able to, save some money and take an LSAT course in New Haven, Connecticut. I used to go to school in University of Bridgeport, so it was about a 20-30 minute drive north. So after going to school in the day and working early in the mornings for the YMCA and other jobs, I would go into this very small room in a hotel and take this course, and so that helped me kind of prepare for the LSAT. And frankly, for law school, I that the LSAT was probably the one of those things that I've kind of tried to eliminate from my mind forever because it was one of the biggest living nightmares ever. So that was, basically applying or getting to that to law school was kind of getting through the LSAT. And then, I graduated magna cum laude from college, so I had good grades. And I also had a lot of good work experience, working at TD Bank and other places, doing a lot of, at the YMCA, I did a lot of community service. Frankly, I actually that was part of my work there as an intern. So that all propelled me to, along with the LSAT, to go into law school. And I got a lot of generous scholarships, a lot of generous offers. So yeah, that's my story into law school.
So Angel, you were working how many jobs at this point when you were going through the application process?
So when I was going through the application process, I had two jobs.
Two jobs. And you were going to school
Yes,
too?
and I was going to school full time.
Wow.
Yep.
So what was like an average day? That must have probably been the busiest time in your life, I'm assuming. What was an average day like?
Yes, yes. So I would, just to kind of give you kind of a quick summary of my day. I would wake up super early, let's say 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, take an early shift at the YMCA, to, let's say, 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning to, let's say, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, or maybe 11 o'clock in the morning. And then I would go to school, take a couple courses. And then, I would then, after school, go to TD Bank, and, work 30, 35 hours. Again, and that's combined through the week, but that was my day. And then come back home, let's say, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, do work, and kind of do that repeatedly. And so that's that grind. It's that was what really kind of propelled me to law school, and also doing well in law school, and then getting into my first legal job and so on so. But I'm sure you're going to ask me about that.
So
So
when did you get time to study for the LSAT? So you were working in the morning, in the afternoon, and you had school. And was the LSATs after you got done with your homework or?
So the LSAT, I think, if my memory serves me correct, I think the LSAT prep was like twice a week,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken, or maybe once a week. But it was usually, in my recollection, I think it was like at least 3 or 4 hours of prep. So I always managed to kind of squeeze it in between classes and work and that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, that was my experience.
And it sounds like you were doing this without a lot of support. You didn't have either financial support or even like emotional support encouraging you.
Well, I definitely had emotional,
You had emotion.
yeah, I definitely have a strong team of family members and friends, and, people cheering me on and rooting for me. And I did have a lot of, professors and mentors at church and leaders and people who would encourage me. So I definitely had emotional, mental support. Financially, not necessarily. I mean, I'm a Bronx kid, who grew up through, public assistance. My mother, my father, they were there, but, they weren't affluent. So they did the best they could. And so I grew up kind of not having that much. And but also working for it. And I have to admit too, when I said I put myself through college, sure, I did put myself through college, but, my mother did and my father were, instrumental at certain points, whether, helping me, pay for rent or whatever the case was. So they were there and they helped as much as they could. But I had to kind of, for lack of better words, I kind of had to also put up my part, to get me to where I wanted to be.
In many ways, you are the American dream.
Yeah, you can say that. You can say that. And I thank the United States for that, man. I'm very proud to be an American because, I know that in other places, and I can speak for, my mother's native country, the Dominican Republic, people work hard, just as hard, maybe, twice as hard or triple as hard,
Yeah.
and they don't have the opportunity to take that next step. So,
My best friend's wife is from the Dominican Republic. So his a lot of his family now is from the DR, and yeah, you're right. There's a lot more opportunities here to pursue your dreams and to be able to be rewarded for pursuing your dreams. It's a I don't want to say a luxury we take for granted, but I don't know that as Americans we always appreciate how blessed we are to live in this great country to chase those dreams.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so you get out, so you get into law school. That was to me, I feel like that had to be working two jobs, going to school and taking the LSATs. That had to be like the most you had on your plate. I mean, you probably weren't sleeping very much. You get into law school. Are you still working at that point, or are you just 100% focused on law?
No, no. So I'm definitely working. So law school, there's some rule where you can't work more than 20 hours, I think the first year.
Got it.
But then after that, assuming that you're, I think at a certain grade point average, you can then work um, I forget what the hour limitation is,
Yeah.
but you can work more than 20 hours. And so the first year I worked, I still worked at TD Bank. I worked at TD Bank um, up until I graduated. So, I was going to law school full time and I was almost working full time hours at TD Bank. Again, putting myself through law school as well. And listen, the books are not cheap. I had to commute to law school. I had to take care of myself, and all of those things. So yeah, so I had a almost full time job. 30 to 35 hours a week plus law school.
Yeah. Is it safe to say that other students probably didn't have that type of load? They were just focused on law school, which is enough.
I mean, you can assume that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that sometimes you know, um, some people take things for granted, and that's why I don't take things for granted. Even giving back, and so yeah, I'm pretty sure there were people who were just positioned to just focus on law school, um and I was an anomaly, I guess. But yeah,
What do you
that's
attribute?
the
What do you attribute, Angel, to your awesome work ethic? Where do you think that came from? And have you ever had a spot in life where you just felt like I just can't go on anymore? And how did you work through that?
So the first part of your question, my work ethic, I attributed to just I would say my stepdad. At a very young age, he worked at a factory, bread factory, and he used to distribute bread. And he would bring me along. He would have me like help him pack some of the bread or whatever. And I would see him working, and as a very young kid, I would help him. And I wasn't helping him, but he would give me a couple dollars. And so I valued work at a very young age. And the second part of your question, which is if I had a moment of, pretty much giving up, I'll be honest, no. I am more motivated than ever. I'm doing very well, I think, career-wise. My trajectory is up, and honestly, I want more. I want more. I want to help more people. I want to help more of my family. I want to help more people out there. I want to do more for myself, my kids. So yeah, I'm more motivated than ever. So.
So when you did have difficult times in your studies and you're going through this process, what did you pull from inside? Was it something specific that said, I know that I'm worth this, I can do this? What got you through those really challenging moments?
So, I want to say number one, my faith in God. I've grown, at a very young age. I'm a believer, so I always knew that God would give me the strength. But aside from that, I always knew I wanted better too.
Mm,
I would again. This is not a knock to where I come from because I'm very proud to be who I am. But I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in the hood. We call it the hood. We grew up. You know, during stop and frisk and, kids, people robbing you. So I grew up seeing all those things, and I knew that that's not the environment that I wanted to grow up in, that I wanted to, give to my future family.
yeah,
Um, so that's what I would say was my motivator, that I wanted to get out of that environment.
that's amazing. And you have such a unique perspective, Angel, because I didn't grow up in those conditions. I did grow up with my family serving food at soup kitchens at a young age. I remember we'd work with our local church, 4 or 5 years old. I was putting bread in. I didn't even know what I was really doing at the time. I just knew we were helping people, but I had a chance to see it growing up. Some of that suffering through our lens, and things were maybe tough on my parents' end, but not certainly to the extent of someone that we were helping in a shelter. And you think about what you came through and how you said, I just want more for my life and for my family's life. That's just such a powerful outlook.
Thank you. Thank you. We didn't have it. I didn't have the opportunity to, systematically, I guess for lack of a better word, to, go to a food pantry and give back. But I could tell you, when I used to ride those, the truck with my stepfather, and he was in a bread truck, I could see the amount of times he would stop to give bread to people who were walking by, poor people. I could see that, and that at a very young age, just seeing him giving back, I would say was in part one of the things that caused me to believe in giving back, and doing more for people who have less than I do. So, but yeah, so it's funny because now, my my family and I, we serve, a food pantry every month at our church. And, so I get to see kind of the beginnings in my life where, I would see my stepfather giving out bread, versus now where I'm in a church and it's a more organized system, and we're giving back, but we're impacting families, people who don't have enough, who and honestly, who people who are hungry physically, but also spiritually and mentally and emotionally, and just getting someone to smile at them and give them something, with love like that in itself, that serves, I'm sure serves them well, from all standpoints. So, yeah,
Beautiful full circle for you, Angel.
yep.
All right, so I want to transition and shift our conversation. I want to focus a little bit on what you do at Chartwell. And when you came to Chartwell, the type of law you practice, I'm learning a lot with, as you mentioned, interviewing some of your team members of the types of law. But what do you practice? I'm going to pull up your profile on our screen. What kind of law do you practice at Chartwell?
So I do workers' comp defense. I uh, started my career as a prosecutor, and everybody knows that. I usually say that because I'm very proud to say that. So I started my career as a prosecutor in Brooklyn, and I do insurance defense. So we defend, TPAs, employers, self-insured employers, as well as other entities, um, in their workers' comp, practice, but pretty much.
And just delve a little bit deeper in case somebody's hearing this for the first time. What does that mean you're doing workers' comp defense?
Sure. So whenever anyone gets hurt at work, while at work, oftentimes they pursue a excuse me, they pursue a workers' compensation claim, which would afford them the opportunity to receive indemnity and medical benefits. Typically my job is to, from the employer side or insurance company side, to defend their interests, which, I think on its face can be perceived as kind of defending the bigger guy or the big guy. But in reality, it affords us the opportunity to, look at a claim kind of, and serve the purpose of the system, which is providing benefits when necessary, or medical benefits or medical treatment when necessary. So I hope I explained that correctly, Derek. But let me know if I didn't. I'll be
No,
happy to.
it makes
Yeah,
sense to me. It does, and it's been a learning curve though for me, honestly, trying to understand. So you're defending some of like the hotels or the businesses, and it does make sense. Um, I didn't realize that it was such a niche in the legal world.
it is. It is. It's very niched. It's either you get it or you don't, and you'll realize very quickly if you get it or don't.
Yeah.
So.
Do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy doing workers' comp defense. It does remind me a lot of my prosecutor days. Um, because you're investigating fraud and litigating fraud and I hate to say this, but in New York, um, a lot of these cases, it's listen, it's not just my opinion. It's been documented to the series of um, lawsuits and the media behind this. But there's a lot of fraud from folks staging accidents to hyperinflating injuries. So as a defense attorney, I'm afforded an opportunity to kind of bring that to light, and so that's one of the reasons why I enjoy doing this kind of work.
That's really eye-opening. I was going to say, but I didn't know that hyperinflating and staging injuries. It's hard to believe what happens out there.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about giving back. Chartwell Cares is a very important initiative at the firm. We're going to pull that up on the screen now. What does Chartwell Cares mean to you, and why is it important?
Well, I think anytime you're in a position to help someone, I mean that's a blessing in itself. And I hate to bring religion to the workforce, but frankly, I think that's really the reason why we're all alive. To impact one another, to help one another, to serve one another. Even in this job, as a defense attorney, you're serving injured workers, even though we're quote unquote adversaries. So what it means to me, I mean, I think it's a reflection of who we are as humans. It goes beyond just our firm. It goes beyond our offices or the work we do. It's a human thing to do, that to care for others and to do for others.
Yeah, and that's been a consistent theme and message, from the different attorneys that I've had a chance to connect with at your firm. A little bit about your values as an organization, and I try to always make sure I highlight these: understanding, collaboration, communication, commitment, DEI. Why are these values? Why are they in alignment with your personal values and beliefs? Why do you align so well with these?
That's a very good question. Look, it, I can say a million things about all of these things,
Yeah,
but I would say. I think the reason why we've been successful is because there is, at least from the top to bottom, there is a sense of collaboration, right? There is a sense of understanding and communication, right? It's not where please, and this is not, again, not a knock to anyone,
yeah.
but I've been, I've worked in different places. I have colleagues from different firms and different situations, and a lot of these things are lacking, and you can see through their success, you know um, why they haven't been as successful, right? Why they haven't grown their team, why they have a big turnover rate, you know what I mean? So if I had to sum it up, I think that those qualities are the reason why we've been fueled into who we are today. 300 plus attorneys, 30 plus states. Um, it's because we really do not only say that we believe in those values, we actually live it. So
It's so special and so powerful, and to be united and to collaborate on such important initiatives. This year, what's really neat about the holiday food drive is that it's national but local.
mhm,
And what I say is, each office, over 30 states, 40 locations, each office is its own unique food drive. And that
mhm.
food drive is benefiting the local community that office practices in. But you're united in the sense that all of the officers are working towards a common goal. And I think it's such a neat, hopefully, the initiative is successful, but it's such a neat idea to think that this could expand beyond just a holiday food drive. Hopefully, team members from Chartwell at your various offices start to build relationships with the food pantries and food banks that you're partnered with, and there's volunteering throughout the year. Maybe that food bank needs help to man a table at an event, or maybe the food bank has to sort food and they have that on Saturday mornings, or maybe there's an opportunity to cook meals or to rescue some food, whatever the needs of that food bank or food pantry might be. I would love to hear like a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that the Chartwell community, this Chartwell Cares initiative, continues to deepen, and those relationships and bonds with those food banks, they grow tighter and deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I've seen this, and like I said earlier, I do this every month outside of Chartwell, and I know how it impacts people, and you know like that would be great, to have all of our attorneys, to have all of our staff members, have everyone all hands on deck, listen, I can't tell you the amount of times we've been short staffed too, you know and not that it's, because I think when you serve others, as long as your intentions and your spirit is in the right direction, I think you don't look at it as work, you don't look at it as burdensome. But sure, I mean, more hands are definitely better. Yeah, like more hands are, then you can serve more people. You could do it more quickly. You can, it's just the practical aspect of getting more people to volunteer is just, it's beneficial. There's no argument against that.
Yeah, you said intention, and I always think of heart posture. You're doing it with the right
Yep.
intention, you're doing the right heart posture.
Yep.
What about volunteering monthly with your family has been the most rewarding for this experience?
Uh, the impact it has on my kid.
Wow. The impact it has on your kid. So flush that out a little bit more. In what way?
So my son is 3.5 years old. Um, and when I see him, take out his to give to others, when I see him, ask me for $1 to give the homeless guy $1, whatever the case is, like that means to me more than anything else. Because I know that a seed has been planted and it's growing. And I hope and I pray that that'll continue, right? That my grandkids and my great grandkids will kind of live that on. And so that's the meaningful part of all of this to me.
Very proud dad moment.
Yep.
That's really cool. I didn't think you were going to say that. I totally wasn't expecting that. And what a beautiful reaction. Okay, so a couple other questions, then we'll wrap up here.
Sure.
If somebody is in law school right now, or they're looking to go to law school, or they're in a difficult spot in their life, pick it, you name it. They've lost somebody, they're sick, they lost a job, whatever it might be. What advice would you give them that, these dark days aren't going to last forever? What advice would you give them?
Um, wow, that's a good question, Derek.
You're an
That's a very good question.
inspiring gentleman, Angel, so I want to get your perspective.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I think I'll share that everything is temporary. And I would also say that aside from everything being temporary, you don't have to live negative emotions more than once.
Mm,
Um, it's a choice to live it more than once.
mm.
And I'll leave it as that.
Everything is temporary. That's good and bad. And you don't have to live negative emotions more than once. That is really strong. I like that. All right, my last question.
Sure.
This is an important one. Fast forward to the end of your life, God willing, many, many years into the future. You're at the end. What do you want Angel Gomez's legacy to be?
Wow. Oh man, Derek, these questions are good, man. You should have sent it to me beforehand so I could have
I wanted
give
to be
myself.
organic. I wanted to let it come from your heart.
Oh man. When I was younger, because I'm still young, Um, I can't remember the word. But I wanted to. I always when this question came up before, I wanted to be recognized as a jack of all trades. Um, but as I've gotten older, I think I've kind of outgrown that, and I think I would want to just be recognized as a good dad, as a good husband, um, as a person who truly loved his family and loved others. And that's how I would want my legacy to be, just a person who truly loved people, and yeah, I think that's the way to say. I mean, I haven't really given it much thought, but that's what comes to my mind at this point.
I think it's perfect. I think being known for the way you love others is such a nice ending note for us, but it's such a nice takeaway from our conversation today. I mean, there are a lot of really good tidbits that I personally pulled, temporary and making sure that we don't relive our negative emotions. I think of negative emotions I've had in my life and how many times have I rehashed them, whether it was a relationship ending or a client not working out, and you say, how many times are you going to beat yourself up over the same thing? You don't have to keep doing that. And then lastly, just if I could be known for one thing, it's the way I loved others. That's truly powerful. And we are in the season of the holidays and Christmas and the Christmas Carol, Scrooge. And the entire point of that story was to take inventory of how we're living our lives and putting more love into the world. That's essentially what that story is all about. It's a man who is um, jaded and focused on the wrong things in life. Been hurt and he has bottled up his hurt and become very self-absorbed and narcissistic, and he is not only is he not willing to see, but he doesn't care. And then at the end of the story, his heart posture transforms. And everything he does from that day on is carrying the spirit of Christmas, which is really the spirit of love in his heart and how he treats others. So the fact that you said that you'd like your legacy to be known for how you loved, I think it's such a beautiful point that you shared.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. This was an honor to have an opportunity to speak with you today. Um, it's been fun. This entire Chartwell Cares initiative, the
Yeah.
series that we've done, it's been really special for me. And the consistency of the quality of human beings that Chartwell employs. Your clients are very fortunate to have you guys and gals because you really do care. And the initiative that leadership has kind of made a priority, giving back through this food drive, I think it's really creating nice unity. And I hopefully you're feeling that too. I'm feeling it from a little bit on the outside. I feel like I'm part of the Chartwell family.
You are.
But seeing you guys come together, it's so inspiring. So
Yeah.
thank you for what you're doing to help people, not just now, monthly, and the way you're living. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And it's always good to I know when you share your story, it almost feels like, you're boasting about yourself and how you did it and how great you are. But, I truly believe in sharing your testimony, you impact others, you encourage others, you motivate others. And I hope that with this interview that I've done that. So thank you for the opportunity. You definitely have a commitment from me that I'm going to continue to serve as much as I can in different ways. And yeah, thank you so much, man. You had very good questions. So.
Well, I appreciate it. And keep sharing your story. It's not bragging, it's actually inspiring. And I think more people need to hear it. We need more hope. And these messages are very powerful. So thank you for
Yeah.
being brave and vulnerable to share it.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, I wanted to thank Angel Gomez from Chartwell Law. He's a partner at Chartwell Law for joining us today on the F4 Hunger Awareness Show. This is part of our ongoing Chartwell Cares series that we're doing. It's a special series running through November and December for the F4 Chartwell Cares Holiday Food Drive. As always, if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, please subscribe to our show. And Angel, thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you, Derek.